A large part of it is just knowing what's out there and knowing what can be done to bring about change. The other thing I talk about is sort of digging where you stand. Right? What is it that y'all can do? Beverly Tatum calls them small doable acts. Like what is it that you can do with your sphere of influence on a daily basis to sort of honor Dr. King's legacy? Because it's something we should be doing year round, not just around his birthday.
When I thought about Dr. King and think about his legacy, a lot of the times, we get caught up in the hype of the dream. We talk a lot about the dreamer. We don't talk a lot about his radical politics and how radical he actually was. A lot of people don't know, Dr. King held a bachelor's degree in sociology. He was a masterful sociologist. He really understood, this connection between structure and agency, what I get my students to try to understand. Structure being those things external to us that push and pull us and control us to do things, laws, institutions, organizations. Agency is, free will, your ability to do, what you want. And he understood the connection, between those two. So Dr. King at a glance, right, he was a brilliant scholar, first and foremost. Right, skipped the 9th and, 12th grade. He started college at 15. He was at Morehouse at the age of 15. Graduated from Morehouse with his BA in sociology. Graduated with his PhD at 26. All right, he was 26. I got mine 2 years ago. A couple things have happened to Dr. King's legacy. He's either been co-opted or he's been omitted. All right? Either co-opted or omitted. And what I mean by co-opted is a lot of people who, when Dr. King was alive, would have rarely associated themselves with him, want to invoke, sort of his life and legacy now. And they do it in sort of ways where they pick and choose what they want to talk about. Can you imagine Dr. King endorsing like Coke? All right? So at the end of the day, at the end of a long march, I like to grab a bottle of Coke. Right? Me and Coretta like to shop at Walmart for our kids before. It's utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous, but totally co-opted. Omission is worse than lying. Because if I lie to you, at least you have a basis to go check. If I omit it, it's as if it never existed. Right? So you just omit large chunks of what you don't want people to know. And they will never sort of know about it. So a lot of King's past is omitted. Right? A lot of the more radical things. You don't get arrested over 30 times for having a dream. Y'all realize that, right? For dreaming. You also don't get the FBI on your back for dreaming. Anybody familiar with counterintelligence program? J. Edgar Hoover, when he was part of the FBI, one of his main sort of missions was knock out any of the black movements. Right? So they did all kinds of counter surveillance and tried to undermine, a lot of the movements. And Dr. King was on that, hit list. So these are some of his, more or lesser known speeches, but are more controversial. His critiques of the Vietnam War. Y'all remember when he came out against the Vietnam War? So he went from Time Magazine's Man of the Year to COINTELPRO because of, his politics and his political shifts, right? And he became increasingly radical up until his, sort of death. So I won't read the long quote to you, but what he was basically arguing is that, and think about this for today's time, one of the biggest things about Dr. King is he's timeless, right? His words are priceless, but he's also timeless. It still applies today. So what he was talking about with the Vietnam War is that all of the funds and all the attention that y'all giving, over there, the bombs that you drop there, actually explode here. Because you diverting funds from things that we need here in terms of anti-poverty programs and the sort. Another lesser known, part of Dr. King is, Poor People's Campaign. How many people was familiar with the Poor People's Campaign? All right. This was a movement. He actually got killed before they could initiate it. It was supposed to start, in the spring of '68. Right? He got killed before the Poor People's Campaign started. But the whole goal was they had like 50,000 marches. It actually happened. Jesse Jackson and Andrew Young and some other people tried to, carry it on. But their whole goal was to shut down business in D.C. They was going to shut down the Capitol. They was going to shut Washington down. They actually had, camps, set up where they was going to, shut down business as usual with rotating camps of 50,000 plus. Right? And they was going to go around to all of the politicians and go around to LBJ and demand that these anti-poverty programs get funded the way they should have been funded. Right? If you look at that speech, the I Have a Dream speech that everybody, references, I'm so glad, Felice and, MLK celebration put it out. If you look at it, look at the front part. People always talk about the dream. There was a nightmare part that he talked about, the reality of what was going on at the time. And he said the United States, wrote us a blank check for insufficient funds because of all of the things that y'all promised with the civil rights legislation wasn't coming true. All right? And so when you start to think about the Poor People's Campaign, that was the goal. The goal was to make them be heard. Once again, a brilliant sociologist. He understood you had to shut down structures in order to go about making society change, right? That it wasn't this easy sort of, transition that was just going to happen. It's important for us to realize that Dr. King's dream was never attained. It was never reached. And we still, fighting this uphill battle. So this is, the poverty rates for 68 when he was killed. All right, it's about 13% of the population living below poverty. 2006, about 12% of the population was still below poverty. Do we still got work to do? All right, are we going to answer the bell for Dr. King's call? This is the kind of stuff we got to ask ourselves when you look at these figures. You see any differences? All right, the differences are, pretty stark and pretty obvious. The thing that jumped out at me was in 68, if you look at the median income of whites, in 2007 it's higher than that of blacks. In 68. Right, these are these disparities that we're talking about. That's not the worst one. When you start to look at wealth, like the assets that people have that appreciate, it gets even bleaker. Dr. King's last book, when you talk about omission, a lot of people don't even know this book exists. Because that's how radical he was, and that's how radical he was talking in his book. This book has been totally omitted. This was the last book he wrote, right? Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Right? And he came down hard on, well-wishing white liberals in this book. He talked about issues of black power. He talked about, problems with education. And he really hit home. And this is, one of the quotes, right? A buddy of mine, when he told me about this book, he said he went to the Dr. King Museum, and the curator who had been working there for like 20 years never even heard of this book. Didn't even know this book existed. He also said if you read this book without looking at the front cover, you would think it was a Malcolm X book. Right? Not that he abandoned his, nonviolent principles, but how hard, how direct he was hitting. He knew exactly what, had to be done. What are we going to do to answer, Dr. King's call? We know that the problems still exist. We know what the problems are. Are you willing to make yourself uncomfortable? Are you willing to give up some of the privileges you have in order to make other people's lives better? And that's, in 2013, we dealing with the same stuff that he was dealing with in 1968.